Hey, 6th grade, here's your help video for practice page 4.3.2. And notice at the top it says write two equivalent ratios by multiplying. I'll zoom in on the first one here. So I see this says 2 to 7. So I need to multiply both values. I'm going to put a colon here in the middle. And I can pick any number that I want to. I'm going to multiply by 2. 2 times 2 I know is 4. And 7 times 2 is 14. I like multiplying by 2. I think it's pretty easy. But you could multiply by any number you want to, right? So for this next blank over here, I'm going to multiply by a number other than 2. Let's multiply by something else easy. Times 10. 2 times 10 is 20. And I need my colon. And then the 7 times 10 is 70. Boom, I'm done. You can pick any number that you want to. For the fractions, I like to write them across. Here's what I mean. I can multiply by any number I want, so let's go times 5. Times 5 gets me 10 25ths. And then I can multiply again and say, I don't know, times 3 times 3 would be 30 75ths. Right? As long as you are multiplying by the same number, both the numerator and the denominator, you'll get an equivalent ratio. It's like an equivalent fraction. All right, I think the top part is pretty easy. Pick any numbers you want to. You can pick any number in the entire world. It could be 532, right? But I like picking easier numbers to do. Number 2, write one equivalent, that should say ratio, not ratios, one equivalent ratio for each by dividing. All right, one equivalent ratio. Now I have to figure out what I can divide both numbers in the ratio by. All right, so let's see. This time it looks like I can divide by 2. Half of 12 is 6. Colon, and then divide by 2 again. Half of 6 is 8. Now, it says write one equivalent ratio. I didn't have to pick 2. I could have picked 4. Let's do that this time. 4 and 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So 3 to 4 is equivalent. Here's what you can't do. You cannot divide by 1. Because if you divide by 1, you will just get the exact same ratio. So you can't divide by 1. All right, let's go back to dividing by 4. Great. So that's what you do for number 2. And when it's a fraction, we'll do the same thing. I notice that I can't divide by 2 because 15 is odd. But I also notice that 15 ends in 5 and 20 ends in 0, which means we can divide both of those numbers by 5. Looking across the top, I now have 20 divided by 5. That is 4 over. And on the bottom, 15 divided by 5, that is 3. Remember that you cannot make this a mixed number. Because it's not really a fraction, it's a ratio. It's only really a fraction if the denominator is the total parts, right? All right, cool. That's section 1 and 2, which brings us to section 3. All right, it says simplify each ratio to determine if the ratios are equivalent. All right, so here's what this means. 6 and 16 are pretty big numbers. We can make them smaller by dividing them both by the same number. So I'm going to divide 6 by 2. That's going to leave me 3, which by the way is prime. And then a colon. And then 16 divided by 2 is 8. I want to know if 6 to 16, this original ratio, is equivalent to 15 to 40. And the way that I do it is by simplifying both. We're going to divide, divide, divide. So let's simplify 15 40ths. Right? I notice that it ends in 5 and 0, so let's divide by 5. Divide by 5 gets me 3. 15 divided by 3, colon. and then 40 divided by 5, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, or if you want to, you can grab your calculator, 40 divided by 5, that gets me 8. Hey, that looks familiar. Take a look now. Did we get the same answer? Sure looks like we did. 3 to 8, 3 to 8. So are they equivalent? Yes. I'm not quite sure what the next blank is for. Both 3:8. They have to simplify to the same ratio. If they are different ratios, right? So if this one had instead said, I don't know, 4 to 7, if this one had said 4 to 7, then we would have circled no. We would have done the no. All right, but because they are both 3 to 8, then they are equivalent. All right, it is really hard to check your work on the top because you can choose so many different numbers to multiply and divide by. So the part that you need to check your work for is part number 3. All right, good luck.